IPO Max.
You're listening to the Pullbuoy Podcast.
There's just days to go until the action in Paris kicks off, with the Olympic Games almost with us. It's Steve here. Welcome back to the Pullbuoy Podcast. We're going to be looking forward to events in Paris over the course of this episode. Katie and Bob are back with us. Katie, you getting excited yet? A few days to go.
Yeah, very excited. I'm between sporting events. Just done Wimbledon, now moving on to the Olympics. It's been a busy time.
Not bad, not bad. And Bob, looking forward to it. You're back on commentary duties with Eurosport Discovery. I'm sure the thing you're looking forward to most is some sensible working hours.
Yeah, sensible working hours, not 3 o'clock in the morning like it was for Tokyo, and obviously heats then, and 10 o'clock in the morning for the final. So yeah, looking forward to regulation time, and also 9 days of swimming, not just 8 days of swimming this time. Yeah,
it's going to be good. And with a lot to get through on this preview, we've bulked up the podcast team, metaphorically, obviously. Pleased to welcome back to the podcast Lizzie Simmonds. Hello, welcome back.
Thanks, Steve. Good to be back. And how very dare you, Bob? The thing you're most looking forward to is sitting next to me for 9 days.
Of course it is. Absolutely. Can't think of anything better.
So, yes, you're on co-coms with Bob, Lizzie. I think you're looking forward to, apart from working with Mr. Ballard, of course, must be not having to sit in a cupboard. You'll be able to actually be there and watch.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm super excited about being in the stadium and actually watching the event live rather than in the middle of the night from Chiswick. So, yeah, it's coming up really, really quickly, but very excited.
For all our Chiswick listeners, that's nothing personal. But let's get on and talk about some actual swimming, because there is a lot to get through. 9 days of competition, as Bob says. 30 British swimmers part of the team who will be taking part in events over there. We'll run through the British team prospects and pick up any other things we're looking forward to as we go through. So we'll start with the women's team. Start down at the sprint freestyle end of the spectrum. Katie, we've got Anna Hopkin entered, the sole British entrant in the 50 and the 100 free. She's got some tough events, a lot of competition going on that one.
Yeah, I think she's it will be her second Olympics, so she knows how to handle it. She's done a hell of a lot since we first saw her at the Olympics 3 years ago. I keep wanting to say 4. But they're really, really tough events. They're absolutely stacked with, the Australians. Everyone's very excited about Gretchen Walsh from the US, who's just been subbed in for one of her teammates dropping out of the 100 free. I think people are expecting something massive from her in the 50 as well. And we've also got Siobhan Hawley, there's all sorts in that race, and a guest appearance from Sarah Sjostrom potentially in the 100 and definitely in the 50. So it's a tough ask. But the thing, I guess, with those events is that they are always so close, and that means that there are always opportunities. I really hope that we'll see her in the final again, and kind of getting up to the medals would be great, but it is a really tough ask.
Yeah, and I think the final, Lizzie, do you think that's her aim? I mean, the podium is, would be lovely, but realistically, there's a lot of very fast ladies going in those events, but the final should be within reach, you'd think?
Yeah, I think for Anna that'll be a focus on both events. Certainly the 100, I think should be pushing to make that final. I think the action will be in the middle of the pool. But having said that, anything can happen. We have seen surprises over the last Olympics in these events, and sometimes clear water and being out of the way of that middle action can be helpful. So I think if she can progress through the rounds, then it's anybody's chance on the day, but it will be a big ask. They are stacked events, as Katie said.
Well, she's ranked 9th in the 100 heading into Paris, so there's every chance if she can progress her form, get back under 53 seconds, that she could potentially make that final. Let's step up one distance, Bob, because I know you're a bit disappointed about this one, to the 200, where we had Freya Colbert and Abby Wood were the two swimmers who came top at trials. Freya had already said she wasn't going to swim it. Abby's also opted out, and for whatever reason, health or other focuses, the selectors haven't opted to give Freya Anderson the swim. So nobody in the 200 from Great Britain. A bit disappointed, Bob?
Well, I'm very disappointed because if you go through it, we don't have anybody in the 2, nobody in the 4, nobody in the 8, and nobody in the 15. We have 4 freestyle events with no women at all, and we have 2 events with 1 woman in it. And, to me, we talk about the death of British swimming, which is very true in most cases, a lot of events. But in freestyle women's swimming in this country, we have 1 person in 2 events, and that's it. I think that's the worst showing we've had for many, many years. Probably the worst we've had in my time, anyway. Yeah,
very disappointing. Katie, have you got any view on why that might be? I mean, obviously Freya being ill is one of those things that can't be helped. But is it just people, worried is not the right word, but, are people focusing on other things?
It's odd, isn't it? Because we've actually got full relays, and we've got relay options for the women's freestyle relays, both of them, which is, I would say, one of the first times that we've had that in recent years, and yet our individual entries are so sparse. I think part of it is obviously to do with Freya having a difficult year. Freya Anderson having a difficult year. I think part of it is probably as a result of how stiff some of the Olympic qualifying times are. I don't think we can put people in all of the events. I don't think we could have put Eva Akara in the 100 free. I don't think she would have had the time.
No,
so that limits our options. Any other year, I'm sure Freya Anderson would have been in that 200 free. She may well have, been top 2 at trials as well. But she's, we all know that she's had a tough year health wise. So isn't doing that for whatever reason. I don't know. We've talked about the distance issues a lot in the past, and we didn't have anyone who had that time, so we couldn't enter anyone. But it is a shame seeing us not being able to field people in those events when in the past they've been things that we've been world leaders at.
And in the recent past as well, you think about Beijing, Joe Jackson and Rebecca Adlington, 2 medals in the 400.
Yeah, well, these things come and go, don't they? Because we weren't very good at some other events we're now very good at in Beijing. So, it swings and roundabouts.
But normally the inspiration comes from those events, right? People go, I want to be like her, or I want to be like him. So where is that? Why are we suddenly dropped off a cliff for those events?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to be like her with like Rebecca Adlington, for example, I want to be like her would be like, I want an Olympic gold medal. It wouldn't be, I want to do the 800 free. But maybe that's just because I'm someone who's tried 800 free a few times and wasn't very good at it and found it very helpful, very painful.
She won the 400 free as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're going to see probably a lot change after this Olympics, and whether or not event focus will be one of those things. I guess time will tell.
I agree with that, and I do think that people like Becky and Joe, they were the ones that were kind of breaking through on the scene when I was a young athlete, and I was hugely inspired by them. But again, in a different event, and I totally get Bob's point. I do think that it is sad not to have athletes in those events, and kind of what the future of distance freestyle looks like for the UK or for Great Britain. But I do think that they left a legacy in their own right by doing that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
All right, well, it is a shame that we don't have British competitors in those events, but they are going to generate some of the best races in Paris, I would suggest. Lizzie, we've got Molly O'Callaghan, Ariane Titmus, Katie Ledecky, Summer McIntosh across those events. There should be some fireworks. I mean, we've seen world records in 200 free from Titmus already this year. It's going to be close, I think.
Yeah, I usually get more excited about the races that we do have GB prospects in, but this is one where I feel like we are just going to be on the edge of our seats watching this. I don't know which way it's going to go. Titmus and O'Callaghan have just been kind of ping-ponging the world record back and forth between them over the last few months. So, and Summer McIntosh, I mean, who knows how high her ceiling is? I think she's absolutely extraordinary and is going to come away from these games probably with a handful of medals. So really, really exciting to see the events moving on so much, and I can't wait to see which way it goes in the summer.
And watch out for Siobhan Hockey as well.
I know, and I think she swam like a 1:53.9 maybe at the Worlds and didn't make the podium. Like, that's insane. Just crazy. And she's super talented as well.
And you've got like crazy situations where people who've been dominant in an event, like Katie Ledecky has been right up there in the 200 free for years and years and years, and it's actually not even worth her doing it. The same with Summer McIntosh, I think, is on the fastest time this year in the 800 free, and she's not swimming it because she's got so many other events. Like, the calls that are having to be made by some of the swimmers around at the moment, just because of how high the level is in these events, is absolutely crazy. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it at the moment. I think I'm pretty excited to see what happens outside British swimming in a lot of the women's freestyle events.
Will we see a lady go 151 for 200 free? Anyone? 152.2 was Titmus at Australian trials. Do you think it's going to come down to the racing, or do you think they'll get faster?
I don't think Olympics is always the fastest event, to be honest. I think it's just about that gold medal, isn't it? And that shouldn't mean that people go slower, but I think it is not even thinking about times. And I just think it quite often does end up being a bit slower because the occasion kind of overwhelms everyone.
It's going to be very tactical. Yeah, it's going to be very tactical, and somebody will get run out in the semi-final. A big name will miss out.
Yeah, I don't know how
likewise, somebody might break a world record in a semi-final, but then go slower just for hands-on wall in the final. I think we could.
I think so.
See that a lot, don't we?
I don't know how Titmus and O'Callaghan train in the same squad. Like, I honestly don't, because they both want to win so much, and I would just think that would make for quite an uncomfortable training environment.
Well, they manage it somehow, don't they? So we will look forward to seeing them go head-to-head with Summer and Siobhan and Katie across those events in Paris. Let's move on to the backstroke events. Lizzie, I'm going to ask you about these as your area of expertise. We've got Kathleen Dawson and Meddy Harris in the 100 back, and then Honey Osrin and Katie Shanahan in the 200 back. What's your feeling about those four ladies? Obviously, Meddy being added as an extra swim, having obviously missed out on trials for family reasons.
Yeah, definitely. The 100 backstroke is a really interesting event at the moment in world swimming. It's incredibly competitive. We can maybe come back to the kind of rivalry between Regan Smith and Kaylee McKeown in a bit. I think Kathleen obviously has had injuries over the last few years. We haven't seen her back down to her best. If she can get back down to that best, then she's competitive for a final. Certainly, I think a podium is a stretch, just given how incredibly competitive the event is. But hopefully, a strong swim to set up for relays later in the event. I think the 200 is a very different event for Paris this summer. So Regan and Kaylee are way out ahead of the rest of the field, but then there's an opportunity. So at the moment, I couldn't put a finger on a third place in the 200 meters backstroke. And I think we've got Katie Shanahan. I think she's been a 205 this year, but her PB from last year, 207.4. I think a 206, certainly a 205 will be competitive for a medal, but a 206 could be competitive for a medal. So I think that event is wide open for a bronze, definitely. Some exciting racing. We've perhaps not seen the best of our British athletes for a little while on these, but that doesn't mean they don't have potential in them for Paris this summer.
Now, people who've listened to this podcast for a while will know that I've been tipping Katie Shanahan to break the British record in this event for ages. Bob, we spoke to her on training camp a few weeks ago. Obviously, we found out subsequent to that she'd had a bit of glandular fever as well, although she seems to be over that, thankfully. She seemed pretty upbeat about how things were going. Perhaps this is the time for her?
Yeah, of course. She was very upbeat. They've had the warm weather training, the altitude training. She seemed to be in very good shape. I was actually very, very optimistic and convinced by what she said when we chatted to her a few weeks ago. She's going to have to improve a lot. Looking at her time, what was her time at trials? 2:08.5. She's going to have to find a good couple of seconds to make a final. But I've got her down. She's about 13th, 14th in the world at the moment. Got to find a bit more, but I think she can. I think we haven't seen the best of her this year yet.
And what about Honey Osrin? You spoke to her after she'd won the trials, which was a bit of a surprise, I think, to her. She's got a lot of upside potentially because she's new and improving.
Well, and also she's a bit of the unknown factor because not too many people in world swimming know about her at this stage. 7th, I think she is in the world at the moment, 2 per nation. So she's actually ranked to make a final. As Lizzie will know and Katie will know as well, that Olympic experience can go one of two ways. She might get on the blocks and freeze, or she might really enjoy the experience. So we'll find out in a few weeks' time.
Now, Lizzie, you touched on the rivalry between Kaylee and Regan Smith. Another matchup that you must be looking forward to watching.
Yes, definitely. I had a quick Google earlier just to look at who on paper do we think has this one. And I think it's impossible to call. I think Kaylee McKeown's been so consistent over the last few years. And then Regan Smith has just kind of bounced back to that this year and just obliterated that world record in the 100, took it down by 0.2, I think, of a second. They've both been under 58 seconds 17 times in their career, which is just absolute insanity to me. From, you know, coming from an event where a few years ago a 58 point was impressive, certainly a 58 low was impressive, and now we've got swimmers who are just heat, semis and finals just cracking out 57 points. I know we mentioned Molly O'Callaghan for the 200 free earlier. She swam a 57.7 at their trials. To Katie's point, she's not even doing it in Paris. She's not taken that one. It falls in the middle of her other events. But just crazy kind of going across so many different events and being so strong in something like the 100 backstroke alongside the 200 free. So yeah, really excited for the showdown. I could not call it. I think probably Kaylee maybe has the slight edge on the 200, but the 100, I don't know which way it's going to go.
I'm Kaylee for both. I just think I can't really remember Regan beating Kaylee in recent memory, even though I know she's a different swimmer this year and everyone's like, no, she's broken the world record. I just think every time it comes to head-to-head, it feels like Kaylee comes out on top. I might be wrong, but I think there's I just won't be beaten is what I see in Kaylee, but I'm sure, like, they only ever seem to race at Worlds and Olympics. Like, that's the only time that we ever, like, they never go to, you know, like international meets, you know, like US Open or anything like that. There's never any other time that they compete against each other, so it does feel like you're just waiting for it, the annual meetup. But yeah, I would think I'll put my money on Kaylee.
Did they not do World Cup last year? I have a funny feeling they did, because I still recall commenting.
Kaylee definitely did.
Yeah, I think they did a head-to-head somewhere, might have been Berlin possibly, and because basically Kelly McKeown came through in the last 50. Regan had the first 150, and Kelly went, thanks, bye, sleeping out if you don't mind, kind of waving as she went past, kind of thing. And I'm sure they did a head-to-head one of the World Cup meets last year.
It's hard to know because I think they're both really good in season swimmers as well, but I think maybe last year Regan Smith was almost a little bit too good in season, and then certainly in the 200 fly dropped an amazing time in season and then was sort of nowhere near it when it came to Worlds. So it's hard to know. I do think it's a slightly different situation this year, but I've given my view.
Right, well, we will see if you're right in a week or two. But let's move on to the women's breaststroke events, just the one GB entrant across the two distances. And Katie, I know you feel that Anne Garrett-Evans might be the best chance of a medal for the women's team from the British contingent. Now, she was so disappointed after the final at trials to miss out on getting the time, which she'd swum in the heats that morning, but she got picked, and she's gone from strength to strength ever since, dropping 65 points left, right and centre. So that has obviously, the prospect of the Olympics has clearly spurred her on. How much further can she go, I suppose, is the question.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those events where there are opportunities, and I don't think it's not like the backstroke where, you know, the first two places, you could hang medals around their neck. They'd probably argue over who gets which one. But I just think there are opportunities. She's right up there in the world rankings. She's been so consistent. Olympic trials are horrible, so I'm not really surprised that she, you know, had that slight drop in the finals. I think it's an incredibly difficult, stressful event. but I hope she's really taken some confidence from the last few times she's swum the 100 breaststroke and can do something special, because she seems to just have more to give. And it's great seeing someone up there in those rankings. I don't think we've had anyone sort of, in the top 8 for a little while. So it's really great to see, and exciting for our relays as well.
And put it in perspective, she's only a tenth of a second slower than Lily King this year.
Well, indeed, she heads into Paris ranked 5th of the entrants. Once you take the Russians out above her in the world rankings, so who knows if she can find a few more tenths. She's right in the conversation for the podium. So very, very exciting for her. Hopefully, she's one of those swimmers who will grow in the Olympic environment and do well. Let's move it on again. To the butterfly. We have Kiana McInnes going in the 100 and the 200, and the world champion from Doha, Laura Stevens, going in the 200 as well. Bob, what are you hoping to see from those ladies? Obviously, finals should be on the cards for both of them.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to be as optimistic as I always am for a British point of view, but I don't see either of them medaling. But I do see both of them with good potential to get into the finals, and hopefully, who knows? A British record needs to go. It's been on the books for a bit of a time. Is there Ellen Gandys, I think, still on the books from 2009,
yeah.
So it's still there.
It's definitely hers. It's definitely a good few years old.
Needs to go, I think.
I mean, we've spoken about Laura's consistency, which has obviously got a lot better over recent years. Certainly, she was super consistent in Doha and did very well last year in Fukuoka as well, in terms of building herself through the rounds. Confidence boost, do you think, Lizzie, having won that title in Doha? I mean, we know it wasn't a proper World Championships, but just going and winning something in that environment has got to give you a boost.
Absolutely. I think huge confidence. I think just, for someone like that, competing on the international stage, just getting those appearances under your belt, but then having some medals alongside that is absolutely massive. So I think sometimes... I'd say this kind of broadly around British kind of swimmers in the past, and I was probably part of this as well, of walking out onto the international stage and feeling like you maybe weren't quite one of the big hitters or the big hitting nations. And I hopefully think that's starting to shift, and swimmers really, when they give interviews now, they're really sounding like they belong there and they deserve to be there and take that place in that final and take a place on the podium. So I hope that it's given her a huge boost of confidence, because I agree in the 200 fly, I think there is a real opportunity. Again, 2 5s, 2 6s will be pushing for medals in an unpredictable event. So great to see her get that medal, and looking forward to watching her in Paris.
Well, someone else who won a world title in Doha, performed very well out there, was Freya Colbert. She's going in the 2 individual medley events, 2 in the 400, along with Abby Wood in the shorter and Katie Shanahan in the longer event. She heads into Paris ranked 3rd of the entrants in the 400 IM. Do you think she can hold on to that position, Bob?
Yep, absolutely. I've got it down on my sheet of paper for bronze. I think McIntosh is going to win it by a street. I think we know that by a long distance. But I think she's very much in the mix, because again, probably another world record going to go, certainly a very fast time with Summer, and everybody then chasing for the silver and the bronze, and there's no reason actually why she can't get the silver, but I fancy her for a bronze, certainly a top 3 finish, and she may well be our only female individual medal, I think.
On the US side, Katie Grimes has been a really good 400 IMer for the last few years, but she just doesn't quite look as she has for the last couple of years. And I know there was something about her coach saying she's not tapering until Paris about 3 years ago. So, who knows what she's got to offer. But, Freya's right up there, and she seems so confident and seems to drop time every time she gets in the water, which has been amazing. So, I don't see why not. I guess it is exactly as you say. It's one of those events where there are opportunities, and I hope we're going to take them.
And then in the shorter medley, Lizzie, we saw Abby Wood, crack through 2:09 at trials for the first time, and then promptly everyone else in the world went crazy and started doing stupid times. But she should be there or thereabouts for the final, albeit the top end of that event is another one that's just gone mad.
Yeah, I was so pleased for Abby to see her crack that 2:09 at trials, and she was delighted as well. I completely agree, Steve, in terms of the event has just shifted enormously, and it probably needed to. I think we've had probably a few games or a few international meets where it's not been super strong, and it has shifted on hugely. I think having Kaylee McKeown in there, another interesting one where we think of her as a backstroker, and actually she's had world leading times in the medley. I know she's not doing the 400 medley, but she's also very high up those world rankings as well. So it's going to be a really, really tough event to feature in. But I think that time from trials for Abby will have given her a lot of confidence that she is still progressing and moving forwards. And I would love to see her shift that down even further at the games this summer.
Well, I think that's good. That 200 IM is going to be a really good race to watch, because you've got Kaylee McKeown, you've got Kate Douglas, Summer McIntosh, Alex Walsh, who are all relatively evenly matched, but all have slightly different strengths within that 200. So it's going to be an interesting tactical battle if nothing else. So one to keep an eye out for, and hopefully we'll see Abby in that final. Let's just quickly touch on the women's relays. We should have a team in all three. Certainly the squad includes 3 ladies picked just for the relays in Eva Recaro, Freya Anderson and Lucy Hope. So that should give us, along with Anna Hopkin and maybe Freya Colbert and Abby Wood, 2 decent quartets in the 4x1 and the 4x2. Katie, certainly finals should be on the cards. The 4x2 did very well in Doha, got the silver medal with some very good splits from some of the ladies who'll be in Paris. So it's a really tough event, but they should do pretty well to be up there.
Yeah, I think it's another one that both those events are ones where the first 2 spots again are probably sewn up by the US and by Australia. But I think it's a stretch this time to actually get on the podium, but I think we are inching up there. We're getting more competitive in these events. We're putting more emphasis on these relays, the women's relays, which we haven't done for a few years, and it is really exciting to see us there. I think definitely finals. In fact, I think something will have gone horribly wrong if we're not in those finals. We've got options, which is really exciting, and it's great to see someone like Eva Recaro coming through. She's so young, so fast, and seems to have dropped a lot of time on her 50 and 100 free. So I'm looking forward to them. I wouldn't completely count them out, but I think it would be a stretch to get on the podium.
And the medley relay prospects, Bob, probably looking up a bit because the emergence of Angara were a big plus for that quartet, if nothing else.
Well, as we've seen with Adam with the medley relay, how important is it to have a fast breaststroker, right? That makes such a big difference with your quartet. So where we had that kind of, Molly's gone now, what are we going to do? We've lost quite a few breaststrokers over the past few years. We now fortunately have found another one who hopefully will provide us with that extra second or 2 that we might need on the medley relay.
Well, indeed. So hopefully 3 finals for the ladies' relay teams. Let's move on. We've got a lot to get through on the men, starting with the shortest event. Bob, we're all really, really hoping that Big Ben can do it, Ben. Aren't we?
Yeah, come on, Ben. Now is his time. And the thing is, for Ben, this will be his only time now. He won't do another... I doubt very much he'll do a Mark Foster and go on until he's 54 or whatever it is. But, this will probably be it for Ben. This will probably be his swan song. It probably will be his last time on the British team. Might do another Worlds potentially, but, he's come so close. Been knocking on the door for the last couple of ones. He's made finals. He's been there or thereabouts. He looks as good as he ever has. He's beaten most of the people in the world that he's up against this year. Why not? Could get gold, but I've certainly got him down for a medal of some description anyway.
He was absolutely astonishingly good at trials, I have to say. Obviously, Cam McAvoy, Lizzie, is the big threat. He's been super quick this year as well, and there's 1 or 2 others sort of hovering about from America and the Ukraine. So, but we'd love to see him do it. If we could will him to a gold medal, we would.
I know. I feel like everybody thinks that about Ben, which is a huge reflection on him, not just as an athlete but as a person, I think, as well. I think everybody is backing Ben for a medal here, but it's really interesting to hear him speak this year, and he seems he's as professional as he has ever been. His confidence has shifted, over the kind of decade that I've known him, massively. But he seems very, very relaxed as well. And like, this isn't, the be all and end all. And I kind of feel like actually that's probably a great mentality to go into a race like this with, because if you go in with too much pressure and you tighten up and you're spinning and losing water, then you're probably not going to get your hand on the wall in the top three. But going into there relaxed, doing your thing, confident in your race plan and your technique, then I think he's got a great chance. And just echo everything that we've said there in terms of hoping that he manages to do it in Paris.
And talking of swan songs, watch out for Lauren Maladou, whose last race it probably will be as well.
Yes, quite probably. Maybe he'll go back to handball or something after.
He might retire for a few years and then come back for another couple of cycles.
Yeah. No, watch out for him. But lining up alongside Ben will be Alex Cahoon, who has taken what notionally would have been Matt Richards' spot in that event. And let's just touch on this aspect of selection now, because Alex goes in the 50, and we'll come to the 100 in a minute, where Jacob Whittle will swim, which it all seems to be anchored around giving the selectors flexibility for the men's 4x1, because those two were notionally picked for that relay squad only, but now they get their individual swims. They don't have to swim the relay, and the selectors can leave their decisions later. But I was really impressed with Alex at trials, Bob. He seems to have his head screwed on right, and hopefully he'll do a good job there. Yeah,
it's not a particularly personal thing about Alex. I just think Matt should get the swim because he wants to swim, and he got the best time at trials, right? He because I asked him there, you remember in the interview I said, can you do all these things? Can you do the relays? Can you do the 50? Can you do the 100? He said, yeah, 50 comes at the end, so I want to do it. He wants to do it. He's been not allowed to do it.
No, and indeed, there's no overlap with any relays for those three races, so it all comes back to that overall relay strategy. And British swimming selectors being a bit risk averse, perhaps after previous experiences, but they've done what they've done. That does mean we see Matt in the 100 freestyle, even though that clashes with the 4x2. So be thankful for small mercies. Alongside Jacob Whittle there, Matt's got some big people to race, though, hasn't he, Katie?
Yeah, he does. But I mean, has that ever put him off before? He's always had big people to race, and he always, he steps up. Ever since he was super young and at his very first Olympics, he stepped up on, in a really high pressure situation in that relay team. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I mean, I think probably far from it. He's so kind of early in his career, and yet he's already achieved so much. So he's got Popovic in his events, which is it looks like we've got good Popovic this year, where we perhaps had slightly less good Popovic last year. Popovic, who's pulled out of university for the year, so he's back on it, and I think that's going to be a big ask, but I think Matt might quite like a big ask, and I think it does bring out the best in him. So I think I hope that we'll see him on the podium in one of his individual events. I think I'd probably go for the 200 free, if pushed.
We'll come to the 200 in just a second, but we saw Zhang Li Pan from China break the world record, take it off Popovic earlier this year. Bob, can David get it back?
Yes.
You think he's got the edge for Paris?
I do.
Okay. Well, we will leave that there and move to the 200. Where it's a slightly different scenario. We have Matt going again with Duncan Scott in that event. Obviously, we took gold and silver in Tokyo, Lizzie. Tom Dean not able to defend that title, but it's not bad having the defending silver medalist and the 2023 world champion in your team, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all felt for Tom at trials, but it's not really a reflection of his swim. It's a reflection of that event in GB. It's just incredible. And we've been saying this for a few years, and I think it's probably one of the most excited me and Bob got for the Tokyo Games was commentating on that 4x2 freestyle relay. But it's exciting to see that they're still shifting things on, and to have two again, within the top 5 in the world rankings this year. And again, I'm not sure I could put money on. I hope at least one of them will be on the podium. I'm not sure whether I could put money on either. I think it would be a very risky strategy to rule out Duncan Scott. So another very exciting showdown, I imagine. And they're two swimmers, along with Tom Dean as well, but obviously he's not doing it. But they're two swimmers who the pressure, the profile, the atmosphere, the crowds, the occasion bring out the absolute best in them, and we don't see that in all events and from all swimmers, and there's something incredibly exciting about that, because it leads to some great racing, and which is what we all want to see. So women's 200 freestyle and men's 200 freestyle I think are going to be super exciting.
And just a quick point, Steve, we've got 4 in the world's top 9, all of whom are higher than the top ranked American.
Well, there we go then. I think that says everything that you probably want to say about the relay, which we'll come back to in a minute. Okay, but yeah, that's going to be a cracking race. Obviously, Popovic has a bit of a lead over the rest of the field, but then everyone's, big bun fight for the rest of those medals on the podium. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But certainly medal chances for Britain. 400 free, Kieran Bird gets the swim. Bob, he was picked for the relay notionally, but he was so close to that nomination standard at trials. I think it's fair that he gets that swim.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope he makes a final. He's just outside it in terms of time, and I think he'll want to do maybe better this time around than he did 3 years ago.
Yes, he certainly felt like he had more to give when he spoke after the race at trials, so fingers crossed he can do the same. No one in 800, but Dan Jervis will go in the 1500. Bob, that's another event that's going absolutely crazy. He'll do well to make the final, you would think.
Absolute bun fight. I've got him down to make the final, probably in 8th place, but I think, it's one of those cases where we want him to do well. I don't see him get a medal, but all the eyes will be probably across the water on Mr. Whiffin, who's just had his birthday a couple of days ago. Happy birthday to him and his brother for their birthdays. But you know what? The excitement of it. Obviously, he trains at Loughborough as well, so we can kind of partially claim him as our own. So, wouldn't it be great? He is, 6 seconds quicker than everybody else this year on paper? Something like
that, yeah.
Yeah, so, he goes in as the favourite. Now, he's never been in that position before, so I want to see how he comes. He's got Wellbrock, he's got Aubrey, he's got Fink, he's got Romanchuk. They're all in there, some of whom will be doing open water the week after as well. So, what a fantastic thing to have a legitimate Irish gold medal as well.
And he's in the open water as well, Bob. He's chucked his name into the hat for that as well. So that could be an interesting addition if he does go through with that. But will we see the end of that Sun Yang world record to win gold?
Well, he's on the cusp of it.
Whoever wins, whether it's Dan or another. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
it'd be good to see that one go, wouldn't it? All right, back to the backstroke. Lizzie, I'm going to come to you again because 4 men going in the backstroke, one of whom we spoke to on the last podcast, Ollie Morgan, but also Johnny Marshall and Luke Greenbank joining him in the 100 and the 200. Ollie's just been amazing, the way he's developed over the last 2 years. Johnny is obviously hot on his heels. The prospect's looking good for some good performances there.
Yeah, I think a really exciting event for GB here. Again, another event that's going to be, I think it's going to be quite tight at the games. But Ollie, I think that both of his swims actually at trials were really extraordinary. Another athlete where we think, where is his ceiling? Like, where's he going to go in the next 2 years, 4 years, 8 years potentially? And I think to have him in the 200 as well. I think having a swimmer that can double up to the 200 is a bit of a secret weapon for a 100-meter swimmer. And we've, I think, the last few kind of cycles we've often had 100-meter kind of sprint specialists who have maybe struggled a little bit in the back end of the race. And actually, Ollie has shown that he's really, really strong in the 200 as well and can bring home a 200, which is no mean feat from my own experience. So Luke's been, another very experienced athlete, so almost the complete opposite of Ollie there in terms of going in with lots of experience. I think he's another athlete that turns up for the big meets. There are not many in the world rankings that have been faster than his best time, but he's a little bit off his best time, based off this year's trials and things too. So some exciting events for GB, and another ones that we're looking forward to. I think it'd be a push to be medaling in those, but certainly exciting.
Don't let Ollie hear you say that. He was adamant that the medal was there for the taking when we spoke to him. But I like that attitude.
Yeah, and sometimes actually, on that trajectory of improvement, going in with that excitement and there is nothing to lose, and actually just feeling free and easy and doing your thing, I think you can really kind of capitalise on some huge opportunity there. So I certainly wouldn't put it past him on the way that he's been improving.
All right, exciting stuff to look out for. Let's move on to the breaststroke events. The big beast, if you like, Bob, Adam Peaty. If not quite at his best, certainly a lot closer to it at trials. He's got a big battle against Chin Hyang.
He's winning it, mate. Do not worry your pretty little head about it. Adam Peaty's going to get his third gold in a row and then retire off into the sunset. It's happening. It's going to happen, boys and girls.
So you think it's going to be three-Peaty?
Three-Peaty,
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. The PT3.
All right, Katie, you on board with that prediction?
Do you know what? I think I feel a lot more confident since trials. Just seeing a 57 there made me feel very good. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of... I feel like I have no... It's one of those events where it feels like we haven't seen everyone's cards, whereas loads of the women's events, I feel like I'm pretty sure how this is coming out. But I just don't know. Yeah, let's go. I'll go with Bob.
I think
three
that's
goals
sensible.
for Adam. Yeah,
that would be great, wouldn't it? James Wilby goes in that event as well, picked probably as relay cover, but he gets that swim because he got the A time at trials. It'd be nice to see him in the final as well. No doubt he'll be in the selectors' thoughts for relay heats as well, but we'll see where he ends up. 100 butterfly, Bob, James Guy gets an individual swim there, courtesy of having posted an A time at the World Championships last year. Clearly, things didn't go his way in that event at trials. I think he described the swim himself as a shambles. But he has a chance to redeem himself.
Well, yeah, okay. Let's give you a scenario that we had 3 years ago. Let's say we get Jimmy Guy at his very best here, and he finds his form from 3 years ago. Are they going to pull him out of the final again, like they did in 2021? To me, he's in there for a reason. We need a butterfly swimmer. Jacob Peters is now currently, although he wasn't at trials, he did the fastest time at trials, did he not, in the heats?
Yes.
So, it's a discussion we can have for quite some time, and we could do a juggling act on this. But to me, great that James is in there. I want to see him in an individual event. But let's say he gets his best form. Are they going to go, that might work against our medley relay, and take him out of the final? I don't like that. I didn't like it 3 years ago, and I don't like the potential scenario here either.
Now, I think the potential scenario you're referring to in terms of the mixed medley relay, which is what saw him hoiked from the individual event in Tokyo, won't occur this time, or is less likely to occur this time. I think the events do still overlap. I'm just going to check on that score, but I think it's probably the case that Britain will go with a female fly swimmer in the mixed medley relay because of the progress of Ollie Morgan and obviously Kathleen not being back to her very best. So I have a feeling that they won't need him for the mixed medley anyway. So if he makes that final, I think he'll be able to swim it. But we will have to wait and see how things pan out. I
need to throw my headphones this time then.
No, you can keep them on your head, Bob, hopefully. But yes, certainly I think the fact he's got that swim means he's in the selectors' minds for the men's medley relay. Obviously, Joe Litchfield took that spot at trials. He has to swim a relay of some sort because he's relay only in Paris. But having James in there at least gives them something to compare to if they want to mix things up for finals or whatever. All right, let's move on to the medley. 200 IM sees Duncan Scott, Tom Dean. Duncan took silver in in Tokyo, so close to gold. He's coming up against some fast people against Lizzie, including the chap who touched him out in Tokyo in the shape of Shun Wang. But he's going to be in the medal shout again, surely.
Yes, I think so. I certainly have him down as a medal prospect in this one. And I think Tom will be interesting as well, because I think without that 200 freestyle, I wonder how that's kind of shifted his mentality over the last few months and his focus in training. I think we'd always seen Tom as a 200 freestyler who did an amazing job of kind of converting across to the 200 medley, but seeing that as his individual event going into Paris, I wonder whether we might see something special from him as well. So yeah, again, great to have two swimmers who we don't think are just going to make the final. We think are probably going to smash into the final and could certainly see at least one of them on the podium.
Katie, do you think without the individual 200 free to focus on, obviously he'll be a key part of our relays, but does that give Tom a chance to have focused on his weakness, his relative weakness in terms of his backstroke, probably? Because we saw Worlds last year, he was so far behind at 150 metres, having done an amazing breaststroke split, but he had so much to make up, and then obviously came storming home to take the bronze. But if he can be in the race at halfway, we know that the second half of his race is excellent. So do you think it's a kind of maybe a blessing in disguise?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think he'll obviously miss that 200 free a lot, because he's the defending Olympic champion. It would have hurt hugely not to be racing it in Paris. But I mean, I think he trains for both anyway. He obviously won't have stopped the 200 free focus, because the relay is going to be such a big focus for him and for GB generally, but it may well have given him a little bit of chance to focus on backstroke. I mean, I think we can forget what good breaststroke swimmer Tom Dean is. He could probably have slipped into that 200 breaststroke slot and held his head up high. We saw him do an absolutely ridiculous 200 breaststroke in the ISL from memory, having thought it was crazy that he was swimming it. So backstroke really is the only weakness that he's got. And I know if you're going to put together a 200 IM that gets you on the podium at the Olympics, you probably can't have a weakness, so he's going to have to have done something about that. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see him up there. I do have Duncan on a virtual podium though in my head at the moment.
Well, let's hope that we can see at least one of them on the podium come that event in Paris. Right, up to longer medley. Bob, Max Litchfield, he's ranked for the podium. He's made an incredible comeback from his exile. British record at trials. Is this his year?
I believe so. I've got him down for a medal. I actually have him down for bronze. He probably won't thank me for that, because he is ranked 2 in the world at the moment. But, it's come so close. I don't want to go through the echoes that poor Lizzie's been through, but 2 fourths for him, last 2 Olympics. Now is his time. It's got to be his time, because, again, like we were talking about with Ben Proud earlier on, probably won't get another chance. This has got to be it. He's in great form. He's worked so hard. He's been training with all the best people for the last year. He's been going to every meet he can to get himself in the best shape he can. He's proved it at trials, and he's proved it since. He's got the second fastest time in the world this year. Come on, Max, bring it home this time, boy. Come on.
The only fly in the ointment is we haven't really seen the home favourite Léon Marchand at his very best yet this year, and Lizzie, he's carrying the weight of a nation almost in the swimming pool in Paris, but he's such a quality swimmer that he could probably deal with it, and he probably is the favourite for that event.
Yes, I think we should expect something special from him. He's certainly the poster boy for a lot of the Paris kind of like promo material and things like that. So another very exciting swimmer, still really young. I think I agree that Max has got a fantastic chance in this, and you don't know what the home pressure does to people. I went to 2 games. One was Beijing, where I was really, the underdog and no one knew me in the crowd, and the other one was London, and walking out to that London crowd was very, very different, and it brought a huge amount of excitement and atmosphere, but also additional pressure. So, some swimmers kind of rise to that, and others struggle with it. So, it'll be really interesting to see how he does respond. But certainly from the last few years, he will have his eyes set on a few podiums for Paris.
My top three: Leon Marchand, Carson Foster, and then Max. It's my top three for that.
Love to see it. We'd love to see it, and hopefully, he'll have to go 4:08, I think, but I think he can do it. So come on, Max, let's get it done. All right, just the relays to go through then. We've touched on the selection shenanigans, but so we won't go over that again. But men's 4x1, Katie, they've promised so much for a few years. If they can put it together, there's a medal there, surely.
I think there's a medal. I was very excited earlier in the year. I was very, very excited, and I was thinking that medal might be gold. I think I deflated slightly as various other nations had their trials, and
the
perhaps,
US particularly. Yes.
Yeah, particularly the US, and perhaps as our, I think with all of our known best 100 freestylers at their best on the day, it was a possibility. But our lineup looks slightly different to, I think, what we might have predicted. That doesn't mean it's worse. We had 4 guys who did an absolutely brilliant final at trials. And I think it's exciting seeing some names that are coming through and are presumably going to be on those teams for the future. I still think, I think we've got a chance of getting on the podium, but I don't think it's going to be gold in that one.
Well, I think, frankly, I'll take a medal, gold or otherwise, in that race. But, they have a great chance if they can... So avoid mishaps and everyone shows up. So fingers crossed that both of those things happen. And then obviously the big one, 4x2, Bob, defending champions, world champions, so close to the world record twice.
Winning it in a world record, at least 4 or 5 seconds ahead of everybody else.
Well, I think I'd agree with the first 2 of those. I think the US might be a bit closer than 4 or 5 seconds.
No, nowhere near.
Lizzie doesn't look convinced about the margin, but do you agree that they've got a great chance of winning it?
I'm just excited to be sitting next to Bob while watching this event.
I'll be in the pool with them by the end.
Yeah, you'll have run down onto poolside. I'll be on my own. No, I completely agree. As I mentioned earlier, really, this event for GB is just going from strength to strength, and it was really. I was so impressed with Jimmy at trials, James Guy at trials, because he obviously had that. I think he'd called it a shambles, his 100 fly, and come nowhere near his best or qualifying. And it takes a real strength of character to come back from that. And in an event where we've got Duncan, Tom, Matt, kind of we'd almost guarantee that they'd be on the team, and then people fighting for that 4th place. And he swum a great swim and absolutely deserves to be there and hopefully up there as the dream team again. So I don't think we've got a weak leg, which is great. It's not like we've gone backwards from Tokyo. If anything, we've gone forward. So really excited.
Do you know what I want from that event? My wish list is I want unqualified joy from Duncan Scott, and that does have to mean that it's a gold medal in a world record time. There can't be any, oh no, but we just missed the world. That's what we need. Unqualified joy, please. Top of the list.
They are smashing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
they're amazing.
Now's the time to do it. Let's be honest. And a quick word for Jack McMillan, who has an important job to do in the heats, and who knows, maybe he'll swim out of his skin and get a spot in the final. But presumably Matt will sit out the heat.
Joe Litchford as well, I suppose. Couldn't they?
That's the other option. Yeah, he's in there. But I rather suspect that they will just rest Matt for the heat and swim Jack, and then Matt comes in for the final. But we will see, won't we? But either way, fingers crossed. Lucky rabbit's foot on, all those things. Hopefully it all goes to plan, and there's a medal there for the taking. Now, the medley relay, they had big hopes in Tokyo that didn't quite come off because the Americans stepped on. They're probably a little bit further back from the US and maybe 1 or 2 other teams this time, Lizzie, but they're still in the podium conversation, especially with Adam coming back and a backstroker who's going to be much more in the race after 100 metres.
Yeah, certainly. I think we've had Luke on that backstroke, and Luke does a brilliant 100 backstroke, and he's been a brilliant relay swimmer. I think to have Ollie kind of coming through as well, and giving us options on that backstroke leg is really important. I think, as we meant, as we talked about Peaty earlier, we're not quite sure what he's going to do this summer, and that there's something very exciting about that. He seems to be in a really good place. I, like everybody, was surprised perhaps to see the 57 point from trials. So I don't know whether he can get back down to his best, to his world record, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him shift things on again. And with your really strong backstroke lead, and then Peaty going in, it just puts you in such an exciting place for your fly swimmer and your freestyler. So I would certainly hope to see them up near the podium again, if not on it.
And don't forget what a great relay swimmer Jimmy Guy is, right? I was talking about their options on the butterfly. You put him in the relay, he never, ever lets us down.
No, that's very true. So fly will be the key leg. We know that the other three will be strong. And then whether it's Jimmy, whether it's Joe, that's going to be the key to those guys getting on the podium. Hopefully they can do it. And in a similar vein, I think fly will be the key for the mixed medley relay as well. Now, I've already said that I think we're likely to go with a female fly swimmer, which presumably would be Kiana McInnes. Katie, that's an event that's moved on again since Tokyo. The US will probably have figured out their strategy. Australia will be very strong, even if they don't have perhaps the men's breaststroker that some other nations have. But what's your feeling on podium chances for that one?
I think China are going to be really strong in that. And I think that's going to be a really tricky one to overcome. I think we were probably in a stronger position back in Tokyo because we had Kathleen at her absolute best, able to lead us off on that one. Then Adam, peak Peaty, and then we had that insane split from Anna at the end and a great swim from Jimmy. So it's just I don't think we're quite where we were on that event. I think it will be a big ask for us to get on the podium. It's not. I don't have that one in my list for a medal.
Interesting. Well, we will come back to your list of medals in a minute when I'm going to.
Oh, you can't ask me to break it down because I've just plucked a number out of thin air.
No.
Okay,
I
good.
won't ask you to break it down. Yeah, okay. Just a quick word for the open water swimmers, Bob. Obviously, we have Hector Pardo and Toby Robinson going for the men in the 10K and Leah Crisp in the ladies event. Thoughts on their chances? Certainly,
yeah,
Hector looks good.
They both look good. They've had really great build-ups. They've had some great results, and I think both could be top 10 on any day. We don't even know where they're swimming yet. This is the other thing. It could be in the Seine. It might be 45 kilometers away from Paris. We really don't know at this stage. But they will be absolutely fully prepared for whatever the eventuality is, and I fancy both to make top 10. If they make top 10, they could be close to medals.
Well, we'll watch where they're swimming with interest, and then we'll watch events unfold in whichever body of water they're competing in with equal interest. But that's a few days after events conclude in the pool, so look out for them when they come up. All right, Katie's referred to her prediction about medals, so I'm going to start with you. Here you go. Right, set the bar, Katie. How many medals do you think GB can get in the pool? We won't include open water, we'll just stick with the pool.
I'm stuck between 7 and 8.
Okay.
Do I have to pick one?
I think you should, yes.
7.5.
Get off the fence.
No, 8. Let's go optimistic and let's go 8.
8. All right, Bob, I have a feeling that you are probably going up from there.
I'm going to 11.
Ooh.
I'm going 7 individual and 4 relay.
Interesting. That's very bullish, I have to say. Lizzie, are you more towards Katie or Bob, or indeed going somewhere completely different?
I was somewhere in the middle, but I love Bob's answer. I think there's a huge push from GB Aquatics on relays this year, and we've seen that in some of the selections and some of the choices that they've been making. And I think to get so many swimmers on the podium would just be extraordinary. I think my sense was 6 and 3, so somewhere in the middle of the two answers before, 6 individuals and 3 relays. But I will be shouting all the way for Bob's vision to come true.
I'd love Bob's vision to come true, and having listened to you three, I feel very, very grumpy and miserable because I had 6 in total down. So,
well, 6 across the board.
Yeah.
Relays and individual.
Yeah. I was obviously got up the wrong side of bed this
Can we
morning.
get somebody else to take over this podcast next time, please?
Yeah, I think we need more upbeat, certainly. But I hope I'm wrong. Clearly.
I think it's not me going for 50-50s here. I'm actually going for people who are either world ranked very close to it, or in some cases we've had, who have experience and have done it in the past. So it's not like I'm going left field here. These are all people who've got really good chances.
But I think there's a lot of chances. I guess I'm just perhaps erring the other side of the line when I wasn't sure. But anyway, somewhere between 6 and 11 is the consensus here. So fingers crossed that we can be at the top end of that.
Quite widespread, that.
It is, isn't it? But hopefully we're at the top end of that range when events unfold. All right, time to bring this preview to a close. Bob and Katie, thanks very much for being here as ever. Lizzie, it was great to have you along, adding your insight as well. Enjoy sitting next to Bob for those 9 days in Paris. Hopefully you'll have a good meet.
I don't know the way you said that.
Yeah.
Sounded like a threat.
You did, didn't it? Enjoy your 9 days with Bob.
All right, good stuff. As we said, Bob and Lizzie are on commentary duties. Discovery Eurosport. If you want to listen to them while action goes on,
of course they do. Of course they do.
So find them there. We will be back at some point, either during or after the competition, to look at what's actually happened in Paris and see who was closest with their medal predictions. Until then, if you want to get in contact, tell us where we've gone wrong in this preview, or just agree with us perhaps, you can find me on X at Pullbuoy, or on Instagram at Pullbuoy UK, or go to pullbuoy.co.uk/contact if you want to send an email. But until we're back with you, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Pullbuoy Podcast. For more episodes, visit www.pullbuoy.co.uk/podcast.